African Union now. There is no time to waste. We must unite or we perish. I am confident.
Hi doing family, we're back again on the Unity platform. My Unity family, we're back again. Thanks for working with me, my people. Like it's giving me joy. Like I'm just keeping pushing on, it's gonna give me more strength to do more and bring out more good content to you guys. So I'm coming in today with a new topic. Today I'll be talking about the early influence of the first president on the African soil, the honorable prolific president of Ghana, the Black Stars of Africa, Kwame Nkrumah, on the Casablanca group Bloc of Africa, on the edge of forming the unification of African countries, and the influence of Nigeria on the Monrovia group Bloc on forming the unification of Africa at the early times in the 1960s. So my people will be coming straight on this. At the time in May 1963, 32 independent states of Africa come together to meet in Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, for forming of African unification with a genuine hope and vision. OAU is the predecessor of the current African Union, also known as AU, that we have today, to bring about the change and freedom with dignity on the African soil at the time. That was the reason why they found the Organization of African Union, OAU. Is found with idea of advancement of pan-Africanism, because Marcus Garvey, Mike Du Bois, and so many other prolific leaders on the American soil have been fighting for the Black American people, for the liberation and the freedom, and to go against the racist movement the Black African American are facing at the time on the American ground in the country. So Marcus Garvey talked about taking back the African people and talking about the resistance and taking back the African people on a cheap coastline of ships called the African Star Line back on the African soil. But on the African ground itself, the prolific leader Kwame Nkrumah, Julius Nyerere of Tanzania, and Ahmed Toure of Guinea, Kenneth Kwanda of Zambia have been fighting against the colonialism and the tensions and the uprising from the colonial countries on the African soil for the formation of African military and high command control for the African people on a strong cause of unity. So the cause of the advancement of the pan-Africanism idea that spread onto the African soil, to the new youth of Africa at the time, the prolific leaders from Nigeria like Nnamdi Azikiwe, Obafemi Awolowo in Nigeria, and some other prolific people in Nigeria, Festus Igbo, and on the other side in Ghana, like people like, Kwame Nkrumah, and the Dankwas, the prolific leader at the time, the 7 people that formed the unification of Ghana to have their independence at the time. So my people, it was a very, very strong time and outlooking time for the young African people coming out of their institution at the time to grab their own destiny to their hand. And Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana did this with the Casablanca group and forming a strong ally with some prolific people, 7 states with Algeria. They call them the left wing at the time: Algeria, Egypt, Ghana, Guinea, Mali, and Morocco, whereby Ghana and Morocco were the frontier, whereby they formed a very strong allied at the time to move on the Casablanca group Bloc vision on the African soil and to put it out to the other countries on the African soil. So my people, the Casablanca group, the reason why this group came about was the reason is that there were 3 groups before, but the 3 groups were the Casablanca group Bloc, the Monrovia group Bloc, and the Brazzaville group Bloc. But the Brazzaville group Bloc merged up with the Monrovia group Bloc to be one, whereby Casablanca group Bloc stand on their own. The Casablanca group have 7 countries, whereby the Monrovia group Bloc have the combination of all the 16 French colonies, and Nigeria with some other African countries like Niger. So my people, Kwame Nkrumah, immediately after Ghana had their independence, came out to talk about Ghana independence is not for Ghana alone, it's for the whole of Africa. He said when Ghana became independent in 1958, Ghana independence is linked straight up to all of Africa freedom, and hold series of conference in Accra, Ghana, from 1958 to 1960 for him to help other countries trying to get their independent on the African soil. So this series of conferences and interviews and talk show like to the people, because he's a good orator, shows a series of pan-Africanism conferences, the advancement of pan-Africanism conferences on the African soil to discuss method of to achieve unification on the African soil. So Kwame Nkrumah, in these conferences that he had in Accra, he had a lot of prolific head of state, a lot of leaders there at the conference, and he expressed his vision for the African country, because he said after Ghana had their independence, and he knew it should be of help for other countries to have a unification of Africa and have their own self-government to move on the African soil. So Kwame Nkrumah split out his vision to the African leaders that he wished that African people comes together for a united state of Africa. Immediately he mentioned this, the influence went on some people, and other people believe this and they support him. The Nigerian government at the time, led by Honorable Tafawa Balewa, the Prime Minister of Nigeria at the time from the northern province of Nigeria, and Tanzania, Julius Nyerere, support with the unity, but they felt Kwame Nkrumah request is overreaching, that is too much, So immediately they talked about forming groups that everybody should state where they belong to, and to know if they support the motive and the motion of the prolific leader of the Black Stars of Africa, Kwame Nkrumah, at the time. So these conferences gave birth to these three prolific group Bloc, whereby William Tubman of Monrovia, the the president of Liberia at the time, which Monrovia was the capital of Liberia, stood up with this for the first ever meeting to bring people together to be able to show the unification and brotherhood in the African community at the time. It's this group that gave birth to what we have today of the Organization of African Union, because from this group is what gave birth to OAU and AU that we have today, and some other little groups like we're talking about ECOWAS, SADC, and some other ones, So Kwame Nkrumah project a vision of unification of Africa, and as him as the head of state at the time, monitoring the influences in the African countries, the African state that is going to be with his vision and for the defense of the African countries. So for Kwame Nkrumah talking about unity and proclaiming himself as the leader, and Ghana being the capital of the African region, and like coming together like the United States of Africa, like the United States of America, a lot of people go against this from the beginning, like other countries. So a lot of prolific countries go against this. So they had another meeting. in 1961, and they had another one whereby they have to sit together and talked about how to find solution to these two groups. In 1962, they looked for a way to invite Ethiopia to the table, and to use the influence of Haile Selassie to know how to bring calmness to the two groups, and use the elder statement maturity to bring everybody to a final conclusion. So In 1962, they had another meeting in Cairo, and they had another meeting in Lagos, whereby Haile Selassie of Ethiopia came to the conference in Lagos, whereby they talked about how they're going to put everyone together in union, in unity. Whereby at the meeting, Haile Selassie cites the experience of Ahmed Toure of Guinea and tried to talk to him and call him aside to talk to him of how to bring the two blocs together in Addis Ababa for another conference, for another summit, whereby they call the summit an all independent conference for all African states on the African level for unification of Africa. They call for unity, whereby everybody came, from the president of Gabon, Omar Bongo, president of Togo, president of Sierra Leone, Jack Steven. A lot of people really came to this. So at the time, the unification of Ethiopia really works to the level like they later form OAU, the Organization of African Union in Addis Ababa, to go against colonialism, racism, and neo colonialism, and for African countries to have their own superiority to control their own state and their country themselves without no interference from no other country, and to have their own self-autonomy in their country, and found groups like some economic groups like ECOWAS, SADC, and others for the settlement of other disputes in Africa. And OAU really have some achievement on the African soil, whereby they put settlement to the border issue between Morocco and Algeria, and they put settlement and they help ANC and the ZANU to get power in South Africa and in Zimbabwe, whereby they create like a training ground for the guerrillas army fighting for the ANC at the time, to come to a final conclusion to settle the dispute in South Africa. And Kwame Nkrumah moved further to try to impress and try to look for a way to bring everything back to normal for the people, and try to pursue his vision about the African unification, whereby in 1965, Kwame Nkrumah called another conference again, whereby he called 36 head of state. He spent a lot of money, spending £10 million in building a palace of 60 luxurious suites, banqueting hall, and seating of 2,000 guests. So he built this to show the massive glory and fame and money of Ghana, wealth of Ghana, to tell the people, like, let's come together and follow my vision. But the people said no, because other African leaders follow in this footstep. Omar Bongo of Gabon spent $200 million wasting the nation money on hotel in Libreville, and a fancy mansion for himself too, with a fancy equipment in the house. And on the other side, Togo spent 120 million, half of the national budget of the country at the time, in building 30-story buildings in Lomé, and 52 suites for guests, for visiting guests that will come to the country. So, and what really made Kwame Nkrumah vision at the time to fail, and what really make other African countries to step back, and Nigeria, that was a very close ally, and Julius Nyerere, that was a very close friend to Kwame Nkrumah, what really made them to step back was the reason was because Kwame Nkrumah foreign policy with other countries like Russia, his views is different. So people see him as a left wingers, and the Nigerians themselves, they don't want to get involved because they want the autonomy of their own self-governance in Nigeria. That's what they believe in. So the Casablanca group, sometimes known as the Casablanca Bloc, was a short-lived informed association of African states with a shared vision of future of Africans, of pan-Africanism in the early 1960s, and same thing as the Monrovian group Bloc. So this is what we're saying. This is the influence of the great Honorable Kwame Nkrumah on the African soil with his own vision of African unity. He speak his mind, and he later bring out other ideas and other blocks formed from that now have what we have today as African Union. I know OAU is just a talking shop for little power. They don't have no power, but African Union have power to have their own economy, their own bank, and to intervene in all the ongoing issue in Africa. So my people are becoming to an end of the segment today. I'm just using this platform to show you the qualities, the great job, and the great mindset and ideas of the great African leaders on African soil. So my people, kudos to my new subscribers. Keep rocking with me. It's beautiful, and this platform is all about unity. It's all about unification. It's all about togetherness. I'll be coming to an end of this segment today. I'll be saying one Africa, one people, one unity. Thank you.
Airport and the
new sense of dignity and this new sense of self-respect, a new Negro came into being with a new determination to suffer, to struggle, to sacrifice, and even to die if necessary in order to be free.
Just across the street from the Blair House is the White House, where President Kennedy awaits Prime Minister Balewa. The two leaders are meeting to discuss matters of mutual and international interest. In a joint communique summarizing the outcome of their deliberations, they reaffirm their support for the principle of self-determination for dependent peoples and their unalterable opposition to racial discrimination under any name or in any guise. President Kennedy expressed his pleasure at the success of the Monrovia Conference and congratulated the Prime Minister on his constructive contribution. The two leaders affirmed their confidence that their exchange of views had strengthened the bonds of friendship between their two countries.